Good to have you with us. What are the pillars that make up your argument, firstly, for direct access to the Constitutional Court, but also why you believe that this agreement should stand?
Look, first of all, we took a decision to go to the Constitutional Court based on the fact that there are three things that we believe that the Labour Appeal Court did not consider. One, that in terms of common law, an agreement between two parties must be honored. If me and you now today agree that I'm going to buy a car from you, and we have agreed and we've got all the elements of an agreement, that agreement in terms of common law must be honored. Secondly, we believe that in terms of Section 23 of the Constitution that gives rise to fair labor practices and orderly collective bargaining, it will be very wrong to have a kind of a decision that says whatever that is being taken through collective bargaining can actually be pushed on or can be disregarded without consequence. Thirdly, we believe that the court, the Labour Appeal Court, relied mostly on a that was then Minister of Finance during February 2018, but did not consider that subsequent to that letter of Minister Malusi Gigaba that said that they don't have money, there was a subsequent meeting which was held on during May, where Cabinet said and agreed that the resolution must be signed. So if Cabinet could sit after subsequent to that meeting, one can take it that all the factors relating to affordability were taken into consideration by Cabinet, unless if Cabinet was actually deceiving Labour to sign into a resolution that actually benefited them to avoid any possible strike action at that time in 2018. Hence, we believe that the Constitutional Court is the apex court that must actually restore the dignity and what is comprised in terms of Bill of Rights, in terms of Section 23, and restore collective bargaining and give collective bargaining its rightful place where parties can negotiate freely without any prejudice, and the agreement stands for implementation.
So what do you think the Labour Court got wrong here? Because they came to the conclusion that the salary hikes will not be just and equitable and could, in fact, cause harm to social grants and healthcare funding. That's what the court says.
Look, yeah, that's why we are saying that mostly if you look at that part of the judgment, sympathetic to the plea of government on issues of fiscus. But on that note, they failed to take cognizance of the fact that it's the actual Cabinet of May 2018 that agreed to that resolution. Yes, of course, one can say that since COVID-19 came into picture in 2020, yes, we sympathize with government, but at the same time, it cannot be correct to simply say that because of COVID, one must deviate from a resolution. That would be incorrect. Secondly, we must understand that even before COVID, 2019, government was already pleading poverty because they don't have money. The other question arises that even if that is pleading of poverty takes place, what happened to the 500 billion rand that was borrowed to deal with issues of PPEs and COVID-related funding? So you cannot, at this point in time, simply just look at the pleadings of saying we are not going to afford social grants, we are not going to afford health issues, forgetting that what are the factors that leads to a state where we are in terms of fiscus? And if we can address that part of saying, why are we in this status in terms of fiscus? One can be able to talk to government, but we cannot talk until we know what led to this situation where government says they don't have money.
Yeah. But Ruben, I'm sure a lot has been said around the 500 billion, that there was no 500 billion that was sitting as hard cash for government to use. It was a combination of various factors. I think there was about 60 or 62 billion that was really hard cash that government pumped into the relief. The rest was going to be borrowed. The rest was going to be the loan guarantee scheme by the banks. The rest was going to be other movements that would probably come from the Reserve Bank and SARS giving some reprieve as well. It wasn't a 500 billion rands really that was sitting as a COVID fund kitty for the relief. So government now saying, well, this is going to cost us an extra 3.2 billion rands, money that we do not have. I suppose the big question then becomes, does that justify having to possibly break down the health system in the country, possibly having to break down the social grant system in the country? I mean, there are others who are talking of a basic income wage now at this particular point in time. And all those things have got to come into consideration, including money to go get vaccines, all that stuff. I mean, are you thinking of all those issues?
We thought about those issues, but it cannot be correct that you can take public servants' salaries to subsidize all those kind of social grants, paying of vaccines. That would be incorrect. What needs to happen here in this country, and I think everybody's running away from the fact that our fiscals are not in trouble because of public servant salaries. The fiscals are in trouble simply because there's a bleeding. And it's one of the issues that we are trying to manage as we go forward in 2021. I can tell you, Thabo, in 2021, all unions were coming with fresh demands to government that says that, because you are pleading poverty, we want to help you. One of the demands that we're coming with is that they must also stop tendering on small items. Why would government tender to go and buy a bread? A bread costs 10 rand, but because of a middleman, because of tender, the bread costs 23 rand or 25 rand. Why would they still have a cleaner in a clinic that is employed by means of outsourcing by a tender? And this person, out of one individual that government pays to a tender, is 10,000 for that individual that works in a clinic. But that person does not have benefits, does not have a pension, does not have any medical aid. That person, when is going to be retrenched by this outsourced tender process, is going to the queue of SASSA.
Yeah.
So then that we want to help government by ensuring that they stop this issue of tendering and bleeding of the fiscals of the state, so that it can stop blaming on public servants, saying that we are the one that take a chunk of the fiscals, while they forget that this tendering process is the one that is killing the fiscals of the state, and also corruption that goes with the process of tendering.
Yeah. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa, I think, reiterating once again that at NEDLEC, Labour has got to be a part of the reconstruction and recovery plan. Labour has got to come on board and actually play a role there and make a contribution. What is that contribution that is going to be made by Labour under the present circumstances? It does appear, in fact, it's common cause that the finances of government are not well right now. I mean, they are made worse by the state of COVID-19. So what is the contribution of Labour as you are anticipating your demands in 2021?
No, our contribution is to make sure that we don't come up with, much of monetary demands. We come up with solutions that can take this government out of its own troubles. And one of it, as I stated, is to ensure that, because we all know majority of this corruption and maladministration happens because of tendering processes. Some of the things that are not necessary. Why would you tender to go and buy a pen? You can just send a messenger to go to a stationery shop and buy a pen. But at the end of the day, those kind of tender buying small items like a pen get a triple priced amount to buy something that is very small. So we are going to contribute, making sure that government on its own, and including our own employees and members of public servants, we're going to call them upon to say that if you find yourself in a situation where you believe that it's unlawful, is going to compromise the state, is tender corruption, immediately report that to us. We will ensure agencies are involved so that they take the fight against corruption head on and make sure that no public servant, no one should blame public servants for the fiscal. They are not paid public servant salaries. Public servants deserve better. They've carried this country through.
Unfortunately, Ruben, we're going to have to leave it there. That line there letting us down. That is the Public Servant Association Acting General Manager, Ruben Malika. The union's now heading to the Constitutional Court on the issue of the public sector wage bill.